Okay, look, the guy who produces This American Life. Can you tell I'm obsessed with This American Life?
Yeah. Is Ira Glass? Or is he just the guy?
No, Ira Glass is the one who hosts it. But the guy who Alex Bloomberg.
Okay.
He's trying to start his own business right now, creating like a hub. Is he still doing that? You're like, I can't take you seriously.
Keep going.
What? Yeah, look me in the eyes while you do that.
Hey, this is Braedon Flynn with the Artist Report. I'm sitting with Yan Palmer, who you can see is a lot of fun. She's an incredibly talented photographer with a knack for getting people to be real in front of the camera. It's a great interview where we talk about life, we talk about photography, going from just a way to make some money to actually finding her voice, talk about struggles, and we talk about dreams. Hope you love it. Enjoy.
Well, hey.
Okay, let's go. Ask me a question.
Why I have you on here is because I think that you do an incredible job of taking pictures. No, an incredible job of really drawing people out of themselves, which is something that I'm the most attracted to in photos, and something that I try to do a lot is, and I find the most authentic and real. And you're someone who does that really, really well.
Thank you.
But I want to hear just a little bit of your journey to get to where you are now, Yan.
Nice.
From, you don't need to go into your sick of it days, but
Oh yeah, overplayed.
no, but more so like from the, I feel like she wrote a great article called Sick of It, which maybe one or two of you have heard or read, but more so I feel like the premise of that was like, just be real.
Yeah.
So it was more of like a writing for you to just be real.
Right.
And I feel like that is what you now do and are.
Thank
To
you.
a degree, but
That's compliment. Yeah,
how
thanks.
do you feel like, where's sort of the progression of sort of maybe your early days to sort of where you are now? It's a long, broad question.
That's a really long question.
It is, but yeah, I guess
like
start.
if I go,
Yeah.
So if I go back to the beginning, I always tell people that, like growing up in high school and in college, I thought of myself as like a creative person, like an artist, and I tell people that, and they'd be like, "Oh, cool, what do you do?" And I'd be like, I don't, like I wasn't really good at anything in particular. It's just I was always drawn to creative things and drawn to people and people's stories. And then I didn't, I didn't study photography. I wasn't one of those people that always had a camera with me all the time. Like, that's not how I got my start. Like, I literally got into photography because we were, like, dead broke. I was married, had 2 kids, husband was out of work. We were laying in bed doing, like, husband-wife pillow talk, like, stressed out of our minds. And I was like, well, I know someone who started a photography business. Like, I did everything wrong. Like, I started for all the wrong reasons, just, like, jumped into it and was like, I have to make this work because we have to eat.
Right.
Like, so that's how I got into it. And when you go into something like that with that pressure, I think it makes you feel like you have to jump through all the right hoops. You have to do anything you can just to get business. So it's, I think it makes you stress less about being an artist and stress more about just bringing in money, right? But that never like jived well with me. Like, I couldn't bring myself just to conform to like, oh, I know that like clients seem to like this, so I should try to create these kind of portraits. Like, I tried for a little bit, but it was just like, even though I had that pressure of being my family, like, I was like, if I'm gonna do something creative, I might as well make it something that I enjoy, because I could go get a 9 to 5, right?
Right.
So I just decided to take the risk and throw away like the expectations that I felt. From,
what were those expectations?
Well, like so I learned mostly what I know about photography on like a mom's photography forum.
Right.
And it was like, I mean, it was awesome. It was like a photography Bible. Like, it had everything you need to know, and they were like really harsh about like, you got to nail this, you got to do this right, but it was very in the box.
Yeah.
and I was like
Older school, like an older school.
Definitely older school. Definitely just very like right now I do lifestyle portraiture, and it was very like just classic, timeless portraits. You know. Anyway, so I can't remember what I was saying. I just needed to take a risk and stop trying to fit what everyone else expected me to do. And it was when I did that, and when I was like, screw it, like, I got nothing to lose, that I moved in the direction that I'm at now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. What, I guess, was it a just small decision, like, oh, okay, because making a transition is generally tough. You know, it's not something that it's easy to just, it takes sort of going out on it's a risk, you know?
Yeah.
Is it going to work? Is it not? Was it an easy transition for you, or was it?
Well, I think that there's that part of me inside that knows that, like, what I'm interested in as a human being is someone who's trying to do things differently, right? Like, that's what catches my eye and makes me want to, like, look at someone or follow someone or be attracted to anyone, right? And so I kind of had that in the back of my mind, and I was like, well, if that's what I'm drawn to, you know, and if I want to attract the kind of people that I want to work with, then I need to be trying to do things differently, even if it is a risk, you know? So, like, I kind of had that inner voice saying, like, this is the right move. This is what you'll feel good about. This will, like, pay off in the end, even though at first it felt scary to just kind of embrace what I was good at instead of trying to be what I thought I was supposed to be good at.
Right. And that was just doing formal photos versus, like, trying to do lifestyle photography?
Yeah, I mean, like, to put a big umbrella on it.
Right.
Yeah. Sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then I would take it was pretty well received, but I guess from making that transition.
Well, it's a really hard question because it's not like it's an overnight thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, as a photographer, it's not like I feel like, and I arrived, and now I do everything perfect. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm still working at that. But I think what I'm talking about is the transition from honoring a set standard that I felt was out there.
Yeah.
And then honoring my own inner voice.
Right.
And that doesn't necessarily translate to one style all the time, but it means that I'm constantly asking myself whenever I go into any shoot or put anything on the internet or write something on my blog, is this how I really feel? Is this what's, like, in my head, in my heart? And that's my filter now. I kind of, when I tell people, when I try to explain this to them, I say, like, I only write to me.
Yeah.
You know how everyone is always like, I'm such a bad writer.
Right.
You know, like, I don't know how to communicate things. I'm like, my writing is like, I pretend there's no one else out there who's going to hear it or see it or read it. And it's just like Yan diary. Right. Which some people find annoying because they're like, I don't want to know that much about you, lady. But, like, that's the easiest way I find to be authentic. And
which I would say really plays to your advantage because I basically work in a women's industry.
Yeah, you do.
You know, it's all women, and my wife would always be like, "You need to write more on your blog." I was like, "Babe, I don't want to write like a girl to girl." You know, it's like because I take pictures. You know, but that element that I think that you do really well is allow people to connect with you, and then people just like want to know you. They like you write in a very relatable way.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
To me as a girl, you know. But like,
you know, it's really interesting that you say that because you are in a women's world, but it's always a little bit, I think, of a tiny bit of a knock to the old ego because it's like, so let's just use Instagram for instance. Yeah. You know, like when I get like a dude who comments on my stuff, I'm like, whoo, I'm so excited just because I'm like, oh, I don't just appeal to like the chick lit like mom circle, which is my circle, which I love, you know, like those are my people and that's who I am, and of course that's why like I draw those people. But I guess like the, you know, the like creative person inside me wants to be like, everyone thinks I'm, you know what I mean? Like you don't just want to be in like the mom box yet when I accepted that I'm like, well, that's kind of my gig. Like I'm a mom. I'm working to support my family. The things that I love the most are my kids. And like, why am I going to try to be something else? Right. You know? Yeah. So.
Love that. Okay. I want to hear just really because you're talking about basically with your photography, you're only wanting to shoot stuff that really resonates with you and really like tugs at your heart, your head and your heart. What is that for you right now?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I kind of touched on this before, like, I used to want to be seen as like, oh, I'm really creative and artsy. And I mean, like, maybe a little bit, like, I have those sides, right? But then I realized, like, the truest things about me is like, oh, I'm really sentimental. I'm really in love with my kids. I'm really drawn to truth and things that aren't perfect and things that feel accessible and down to earth. You know, like, instead of projecting a message of like, I'm a little bit cooler than everybody and so you should be drawn to what I do, I want to project a message as like, I'm so normal and I'm a lot like you. And because I think that what's interesting to me about art is that it helps us feel connected to each other as human beings. So I think the best way to feel connected is to focus on things that are very, very real. And so when I ask myself, what are those things for me? It is my, like, sentiment, being super sentimental and super loving of my kids, and sometimes, like, being a mess and sometimes being, like, stressed out, and, you know, not, like, trying to play down those elements and not trying to, like, play them up, because no one, like, wants to listen to a whiner all the time. But, you know, but, like, sharing, not being afraid to be real about, like, where you're at and what your situation is.
Because there's probably one or two other people that are in a similar position where they're like trying to be successful, trying to do well, and it's a struggle.
It's a struggle, and I want people to know that that's okay, you know, and I want people to be like, thank you, like, thanks for saying that. Man, everyone was thinking that.
Right.
You said it, and you made it okay so that we don't all have to, like, keep beating ourselves up about it, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How do you do at the internal beat up of self?
Man, you're talking first like a woman and an artist. Those are like the two categories of people who beat themselves up the most, right? So I've come a long way. There's always like mental games I'm playing with myself, right? So to keep myself from like being too hard on myself or like getting down about not being good at that or good at this or like not being like, I don't know, cool enough, pretty enough, good enough mom, I joke that I'm like, I set my standards really low, and so I can always be successful. But it's kind of true. Like, so with like parenting, for instance, I'm like, okay, we live in like a society where it's like over-parented kids. I feel like over-involved kids, you know, and so like that stresses me out, and I just can't even function. I get overwhelmed when I think about all the things I'm supposed to do as a mom. So I just decided, like, pick 3 things that are going to be my focus. Like, I want to make sure my kids read. I want to make sure they love music, and I want to make sure, or like music and the arts, like anything in that area, and I want to make sure that they're connected to nature in some way.
Yeah.
Like, and I probably want to make sure they stay alive. You know, like that kind of thing. But if I focus my efforts into smaller, more attainable things, then I do better at feeling good about myself and not like getting super down, which we all do. Everybody does.
Yeah. And artists, I would say, probably more than other types of people. Within that realm, because that's, for me, that's a really interesting subject of just how do you do anything? I'm someone who beats the crap out of myself, you know, and just never. But the thing you go.
I think that it's not a completely negative process. Like, to be hard on yourself helps propel us forward and achieve greater things. I just think that there's like a line that can be crossed.
And what I'm learning is that you need to learn to celebrate successes sometimes. And it's like, it's noticing this, like how you're saying, I set these 3 goals, you know, it's like as long as we're hitting those, like it's being able to set a bar at some level where you can actually hit it sometimes, you know, and then
like set yourself up for success.
Totally.
It's true though, and like, I don't know. Yeah, I think also not. I have blinders up a lot of the time. Like I choose to be oblivious about a lot of things that are going around me to prevent myself from comparing myself, because I know me and I know how badly I do it, and I know that, you know, it's, you know, I'm a creepy people watcher. I love people and I like to observe them and see like what makes them tick and like how they achieved this or why they did that, and that's all very interesting. But the problem with doing that is that sometimes I get obsessed with, you know, as we all do, like what they have, where they came from, how they did it. And there's definitely lessons I can learn, but ultimately it has nothing to do with me, and it has no productivity level. And so then I compare, and I think that I need to be like them. So I put like my blinders up like super strong and kind of try to go about my merry way.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's a good thing, and sometimes I should probably be a little bit more aware. Yeah.
Have you defined success for yourself?
Whoa. I feel like that's a hard question.
It is.
I could try right now.
Or even just like what would it look like to have arrived, or do you arrive? You know, it's like, what is that like? Because what I'm feeling lately, because I have not done this, you know, it's more so like if you don't set a bar for what success is, like will you ever hit it? You know,
right? Yeah, that makes sense. I think that my definition of success, though, would include a constant evolution and improvement, which, like, you know, by definition, you would never arrive.
Right.
Like, success would include the constant change and growth and, you know, trying to get that much better or that much happier or, I think that, you know, to get real with you for a minute, like, a couple of years ago, and this is, you know, I don't want to make this my shtick, and I talk about it plenty on Instagram and stuff, but I got divorced. And I photograph families, love, like, those are the things that I value more than anything in the world, right? And in my world, it all fell apart.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, this feels way too melodramatic, and I hope I don't offend anyone in saying this, but it's kind of like having a house fire where you lose everything that you thought mattered to you, in a sense. And I didn't lose my kids, you know, I still have them, but my whole reality had to be redefined. And I think when something like that happens, it makes it really clear quickly the things that you want to aim for to get happiness. And so success to me has a really simple definition now, which is that I want to have like a loving, happy relationship with a partner. I want to have a space for my kids that they feel comfortable and safe in, that they, you know, that we like eat meals together in, which we never do. Like I'm like single mom, like drive through, like I even go to a gas station that has a drive through. Like everything's a drive through for me. It's you know, like these are things I haven't attained yet, but it's like I basically want a simple life somewhere with people I love, doing something I love, and constantly growing every day, and reading lots of books. I want to read a lot. That's big in my idea of success, like the constant education of self. So
that's good. Yeah, I think it's too easy to get lost in the drive for success. Like if that's not really defined, and all as artists, I think it's easy to define yourself through what you're creating. I just had an interview with Joel, and he runs a podcast called The Balance, but we were talking a lot about that. Is he was you know, he works as a designer at Google, but he's like, all they do is like, it's the next project they create, and then they produce and they ship, you know, and then it's like, okay, next, and it's all based on like what you're creating, you know, same deal. Like after you've shot a series of photos, then you've delivered them, then it's like, okay, or maybe they live on your blog, but then it's like, okay, well, if I'm not shooting, then, you know, if that's sort of how you make your livelihood, or just, it's easy, I think, to wrap that up in your identity, and if that's not going well, then nothing's going well.
Nothing's going well, right.
You know, but...
Well, even in the photo world, I mean, I think when I started out, I was super hungry and, like, competitive, and I was like, I want to be a big name. I want other photographers to know who I am. You know, like I had all those like goals inside, and I was like, I want people to notice me, and that really drove me. Like, and it helped. You know, I would say that like that helped push me along. And then like when things like fell apart, then I just realized like, oh wow, I actually don't care about that at all.
Yeah.
And that stopped being like any kind of motivation for me. That's too like altruistic. I'm sure there's still like that like other side of me that is competitive and still, you know,
still wants everyone to love you, and
I mean, you want people to like you. I can't pretend that I'm above that, because I guess I'm not totally above that, but I have a much healthier sense of what I really value, and it's not that anymore. So
I love that. If you were to give advice to a young photographer who looks up to your work and wants to be a Yan, or just wants to like maybe wants to be a star, wants to be successful. You know, what would you tell your young Yan self?
Oh my God, that rolled right off the tongue. Young Yan self. Well, young Yan self. There's a lot I would say.
Right.
I teach workshops and I make people listen to me all day long. So, but if I had to be concise, it would be, you've got to have a combination of two things. Like a certain amount of confidence in that you're like, I am going to do this. I can do this. I'm going to push myself forward until I achieve, you know, like the goal of like making money or booking a certain number of shoots or those kind of things, right? You have to have that confidence to be able to be like, I don't care what anyone else thinks of me as I do this, I'm going to do it. But you also have to combine that with this certain level of humility, I think, which means like you have to be willing to look like an idiot while you do it and just not care. I think that people get held back the most by not being willing to do things in an aggressive way or a real way or even a silly way because they feel like people are going to judge them, right? But like what I have found, like the thing that has made me most successful is that I have a super high tolerance to just look really dumb.
Yeah.
You know, like to be willing to ask questions or to be willing to be like, oh, can I do that for you? Or, oh, can I shoot this? Or like put yourself out there. And like people aren't going to always love you and people might think you're annoying and like to not be afraid to let people like,
right.
You know?
Yeah.
Get on people's nerves a little bit. But like combine those two things though. Does that make sense?
It does.
So it's like, I think it's confidence and humility at the same time.
Yeah. Within, if someone was going to come to a Yan workshop, which you've got one coming up, what are the core of what you're teaching in your workshops? I don't like give the workshop away, but you know,
I kind of
like,
wish I could have prepped these questions.
Sorry about that.
These are good. I think what I try to do differently about my workshop compared to a lot of the workshops. Well, I don't want to even compare to the other workshops that are out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of workshops.
But the focus of my workshop is right back on you.
Yeah.
It's not come to my workshop, watch what I do, learn everything the way that I do it. Although that's included, it is turning back around and being extremely self-reflexive. I mean, reflective. And looking at yourself and looking at what your unique strengths are and what your unique weaknesses are. And kind of gathering a game plan on how to maximize on those things and take off in your own direction. And the way that I do that is it's like I look at everybody's portfolio before they come. I give them an in-depth portfolio review before they come to kind of prime them for like what to pay attention to at the workshop. And I give them an assignment that's like unique to them that I feel like caters to what they need specific improvement on or what they need or like a gap that they might need to fill in their skill set. Does that make sense? Anyway, so that when they come, they already feel like they've been seen. Like it's not just like be this like faceless like number at a workshop and the teacher doesn't really care about you because they care about them, but it's like, no, the teacher really wants to help you succeed on your own merits. Because everyone else has something totally different to offer, you know? So that's kind of the core of it.
That's awesome. What are you loving right now?
What am I loving? In terms of life?
Yeah, life. Photography, any of those. Let's go. What are you loving in life right now?
Oh, wow. I think that question just really depressed me for a second. Because I'm like, oh, what am I loving in life? Am I appreciating things in life right now? I am... Well, you're going to make me share my secret dream, actually, then. What I'm actually really loving right now is I'm reading a ton, and I want to write.
Love it.
I want to write books. And so I'm, the best way to educate yourself about that is to read a lot of books.
Yeah. And
I'm reading books about writing. And I'm...
Have you started?
I have.
All right. Good.
Like late night.
It's exciting.
Yeah. No, yeah, I hope so. I don't know, but it's something that I do for me though.
Yeah.
It's not something that I'm like trying to like put out into the world necessarily, but it's something that's just, I don't know, you know, like my personal satisfaction, secret thing that I like. You know, everyone should still have that like little fantasy dream inside of them that they're like, oh, it'd be so cool if this happened.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of what I do.
But then there's the deeper dream of actually writing and putting it out there, not just writing.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. But if I remember my advice of aim low. Like if I put in my head that I'm like, well, my end goal is for it to like be accepted and for people to like it.
Yeah.
Then that messes up the whole process for me.
Totally.
Like then I get paralyzed and I can't even create. So I have to like, that part is totally there, but I have to like almost pretend that it's not in order to unparalyze myself and even let myself write. Does that make sense?
But I think just in terms of confidence that you could probably give yourself is just in sort of the risk of being vulnerable with just your blog and the response that you've gotten. Pretty strong.
Well, that's
you know?
good.
Right? Where I think there's a difference of if you're doing something to, like, let's say you hear like, oh, I'm gonna be a photographer because I hear there's good money in it, you know, and I'm gonna go do that and I'm gonna shoot and I'm gonna like build a business and I'm gonna shoot pictures. You're missing the point. You know, people can do that. I don't know how much longevity you're gonna have, and I don't know how much of an artist you're actually gonna be. Or sometimes you do that and it actually creates a spark.
Well, that was the thing. Like it was like started from the totally wrong place, like totally wrong motivation. You know, and it wasn't very long before I figured out that, like, whoa, this isn't sustainable. Like, oh, this gives me no satisfaction whatsoever, and which is why, like, I swung to the other end of the pendulum, which is, like, if you're going to do this, you know, like, do it with heart, do it with meaning, do it with purpose. And,
Yeah, but I think so there's that perspective, but then if you actually take it and you do it with the heart, and you're not doing it like, okay, maybe no one's going to read it, maybe a lot of people are, but then you put it out, you know.
Yeah.
I'm excited. That's really cool.
Oh, you're nice. Well, now I'm going to force you to read it once
done. Well, fun. Thank you. But thanks for taking the time to do this.
No problem. Thanks for asking me.
Totally. Well, I think, where can people check you out? Where can people find your work? Check her out right here.
Where's the camera? YanPhoto.com. No, Yan Palmer. Google me.
Google me.
Yeah, Instagram. Instagram is kind of my daily like check-in.
Yeah.
My social media places.